motshegare bana ba re mama ba re ke a re gape nna re ba re mmino o botse seraleng ka re ruri tla re diragatseng koloi ya mmino tlampege tshweni potama bana ba tshege put us on stage, put us on stage, put us on.
Hello and welcome to On Stage, the show that profiles everything that happens on state theatres, music stages. Whether it's at the Malombo, the SK, the drama, the opera, you name it, we will profile it. My name is Kamogetsu Malefo, and today I have the extreme pleasure of sitting down with singer, songwriter, composer LEOMILE. Hello LEOMILE.
Hi Kia, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
So tell us about who LEOMILE is and where she grew up and how she discovered music.
That was a lovely introduction, by the way. So on top of all those things, I guess I'll add that I am a storyteller, right? Okay. A storyteller through song currently, but also through other mediums. I was born and raised in Maseru, Lesotho, and yeah, music has been a part of my life for the longest of time. I like to think before I was born, because I come from a lineage that has such a strong musical inclinations. I have a grandfather who was like a music composer. My grandmother sings. My mother sings as well. And my father's a pretty good singer as well, even though it's just like around the house vibes. Yeah, and then I think I just grew up in a house where there was a lot of music. My father has a big music collection. That influenced maybe my being very open and listening to different styles. But my personal voice, I would say I discovered in around grade 3. When we were just singing, hanging around with the youngins. And then I actually remember we were singing, what is this? Bongo Muffin. We were singing Bongo Muffin song, Tati's group. Oh,
and then you were the Iscoop.
Yeah, and they were like, Iscoopu Siabaya, what's going on? And yeah, that's my earliest memory of kind of being told that I have a good voice. Okay. And then I've been writing, my earliest memory of writing or composing my own song is grade 4. So yeah.
Wow, okay.
Yeah. So I would say it's been around for quite a while, although my plan was never to pursue it professionally. I always just thought I would do it as a hobby, do it at home, have my own home studio. But then life had its way of hijacking me into doing music. When I got to varsity to study something else, film, I took an extra course in music just as a filler because I was short. But then by the end of the year, I was like, I think this is what I need to be doing.
So let's talk about the film part and the aspect. What was the plans? What were your aspirations then when you were studying it?
I was inspired a lot by Clint Eastwood, All the White Men, Martin Scorsese.
Normally those are the influences,
yeah.
Especially from school.
Also when you're not very exposed, at the time, it's a very different time now where there's a consciousness around amplifying Black voices. But back then I was like, I'm the next Scorsese. But then I did... I think it's always just because I'm a storyteller and I've always just felt like there's a gap in stories that aren't being told. And at that time, I thought I wanted to fill that gap in film. But I loved a lot of dramatic things and I wanted to, write those kind of roles, but particularly like African-centered stories. But that's kind of just now shifted to music.
Okay, and so let's talk about the song that we're going to be listening to. What influenced this song? And tell us about the process when you were actually creating and writing this music.
This is a new song. I have an album coming out hopefully this year. Cross fingers.
Looking forward to
yes, it's called Dipina Mata. A quick Sesotho lesson for those who don't know.
Okay.
Leta is a lake.
Okay.
Right, so Mata is lakes, right?
Okay.
So, I mean, if you translate it literally, I guess it would be like songs from the lake.
Okay.
But, that's not the essence of the song because as like Abantu, we have a very strong relationship with water. So it's really about songs for healing, for cleansing, songs for remembering, and that's what the song's about.
The name of the song?
Dipina Mata.
Dipina Mata. Enjoy. welcome back. You're still tuned to On Stage with me, Gamalefo, and we're chilling with LEOMILE and getting to know her better. So let's talk about your creative process. You said that you're writing an album now. How different is this from the first time?
The first time around, actually, I wrote most of that album when I was still in school.
Okay.
I didn't know that it was going to be my album, but we had to like constantly write music. So then when I was done, I started playing the music with a band, and that's kind of how we arranged it. And then eventually we were like, okay, we keep playing this music live. It would be lovely for people to have access to it. And then we recorded it. Okay. Yes, this time around, most of it was written during my time back home. I went back home in 2017, back to Lesotho, and yeah, it was a very reflective time of just kind of reckoning, and during that space, isolation as well, right? So yeah, it was different in that I wrote a lot of it in solitude and not in collaboration with other people, and I'm only bringing on other musicians here. So I guess it makes it even more personal because I really just had myself and that inner voice to listen to.
So did it help you to actually find or solidify your voice more? Or was it just that this is how this process worked and this is where you found yourself this time?
I think so. I think it did. I think when I came out of school, I was so green and so nervous. And I relied a lot on the people around me, which is great. It's great to have community and people kind of like guide you, especially when you're feeling it out. And this time around, the production phase of that is still very collaborative. I'm still bringing in people to help me kind of shape and arrange the music. But just in terms of, firstly having a sense of the sound of the album beforehand. And yeah, I would say that I grew a lot in that respect. And yeah, it helped me also lean into my capabilities as an arranger. Even though that's not what I consider my strongest suit, it's lovely to like dip my toes in and have a sense of how I would like want different instruments to come in, and then obviously get feedback and assistance. But yeah, it has grown me a lot.
Let's talk about COVID, right? How did it affect you as an artist and maybe as personally, you know, from a human being perspective?
I think as an artist, almost like both are intertwined.
Okay.
Both are intertwined. Okay. I went back home, so I had already slowed down a little. I wasn't performing as much. I wasn't sharing as much. So when COVID came, I didn't necessarily feel it as hard as I think a lot of people who were, you know, in a certain like grind and momentum. But I do think that there was still like a background pressure, you know, to like keep moving, and COVID forced us to like just be still and reflect because we didn't have many options. And I think that really helped me just again listen to my inner voice and try and figure out what the music was trying to say. And then also just as a person, I think I went back home. It was like a very literal going back home, but also like a spiritual homecoming of sorts, you know, just kind of reconnecting with the reasons why I'm doing music, understanding that at a deeper level. So COVID like allowed for me to explore that a bit more.
When you speak about, you know, going back and coming into yourself, what does music mean for you?
Yeah, that's a very difficult question. It's like music is it's such a vast thing to try and even put into words. I think it's its own language. You know, I will just say that I'm growing and understanding my role in music. I think, you know, we used music traditionally or in ancient times for celebratory purposes, yes, but we also used it a lot in like ritual and to ground and to connect, right? In Sesotho, it's Ubina or Mino, but I know that like in Nguni, it's also like Ingoma, right? And it has that like, it's a healing modality. So I definitely more and more am understanding my place in using the music to heal and to replenish. And interestingly, that's also the meaning of my name, actually. Like LEOMILE is a name that's given to one who brings restoration and is also given to a rainmaker.
That's beautiful.
Thank you.
It's so beautiful.
So yeah, I'm more and more I'm leaning into my understanding of what my role in music is, but it's too big a thing for me to try and even
I think you've actually
really
summed it up quite nicely.
Okay.
So let's talk about the next song and what influenced the creation of that.
This next song is Dinana Bulele. It's actually it's inspired by a Sesotho folk tale. When I was young, my dad would would tell us folk tales like at bedtime, like our bedtime stories were Sesotho folk tales with my sister. And I guess this one just kind of stuck for the longest time. And then when I started trying to write in Sesotho, because for the longest time I was writing in English, you know, we all grew up on like, you know,
influenced by
the influence,
what we're hearing.
right? So, but when I started writing in Sesotho, I think one of my first like points of entry was the folk tales that my father used to tell us in Sesotho. And Dinana Bulele is a creature that was in one of those folk tales called Masilo Letagane, right? So it's a story about just overcoming, you know, and yeah, it's a story about overcoming whatever it is that you're trying to lead you to that place of purpose. Dinana Bulele.
Dinana Bulele.
It's a mouthful.
Dinana Bulele.
Yes.
Enjoy.
Dinana Bulele, ubatla kubo ya dinana bulele, mwana wa lelekisa tina ledi, mwana wa shaula mikwalaba, ubatla kubo ya dinana bulele.
Welcome back. You're still tuned to On Stage with me, LEOMILE, and we're still chilling with LEOMILE and getting to know her much, much better. So I just wanted to ask you about, you know, after COVID happened and all of those things, there's been this wave of artists trying to go into this digital space.
Yeah.
I just wanted to know, how have you found the navigation of that process, and what do you think is the lessons in terms of going online for artists?
Yeah, I think for those of us who are in denial, like myself, I'm one of those like very analog people that's like resisting, resisting the digital movement. I'm trying not to anyway, but it did force us to kind of have to think in those ways and engage technology in that way. I think I'm learning slowly to be a little less averse to it and find a way to navigate, because that is the trajectory that the world is going, and I think it's important to at least understand how it works and then decide how you want to connect with the audience. So for me, for instance, during the COVID, like the height of the pandemic, one thing I did was I was sharing some just videos of me singing and looping myself on my vocals on a loop. Oh, did you?
I did.
On Instagram.
On Instagram, yes.
I don't think I would have ever done. I would have done that if like COVID didn't happen and take away performance completely, and you know, also just being inspired by seeing other musicians do that. So yeah, I guess it has propelled us in that way a bit further, and it's just about us trying to continue to find ways to use it meaningfully, and also just like understand it. I realize that some of us are just like a little averse to that move because you don't really understand it, and just like be open.
And let's talk about sisterhood. When you and ONSTAGE did a track together, let's talk about that collaboration and just the sisterhood that you guys share.
Oh, that's such a... She's my heart. My whole entire heart, because I actually became a fan of her music way back in 2012 when I was actually still a student, a music student, and I remember there was actually one of the concerts where we were working backstage and she was performing there.
I've seen the picture that you took.
Yes. And she was performing there and I was just a fangirl. So it was a very beautiful like full circle moment to get to work with her. I reached out to her. No, actually, I had tried to reach out to her, I think unsuccessfully, and then it just so happened as, you know, things align, what you're seeking is seeking you. Her people reached out to me because she was working on a new album and she was looking for collaborators, particularly maybe on the songwriting side. And then we met and we just like instantly clicked, and it was so, it's just been a beautiful, even the writing process for Banaba Khwale, the song we did together, was so easy, so seamless, and she's family now. Like I think when I came back from the Christmas holidays, I stayed at her place for at least like a week. Just being auntie to the babies. And it's so lovely to have that support. Like I think the industry can be a bit lonely as a woman. There's certain experiences that you have that sometimes you just have to kind of like sweep under a rug because you don't feel like it's worth challenging or you have so much to lose. And it's just lovely to have people who have had similar experiences so you can kind of like just feel seen and heard and also maybe get advice on how to navigate certain things. So she's definitely been that for me.
Oh, that's lovely, and the song is amazing.
Thank you.
Let's also talk about now, you're saying that you're in the production phase of your new album.
Yes.
Who would you like to collaborate with, or who are you seeking out and saying, this is the type of people that I want to work with on this particular album?
I mean, I think the collaborations for this particular album, I don't want to say them out loud. I don't want to jinx them. I don't want to jinx them because this album is coming out now. So I don't want to jinx the collaborations that I have in mind for this album. But I will just say, like, in general, people that I would love to collaborate with, I'd love to collaborate with Thandiswa Mazwai.
Oh, amazing.
People don't know this about me, but deep down, I'm trying to be a pop artist because I believe... It's just every time I write, something else comes out. But one day when I'm fulfilling my pop artist dreams, I'm actually really a fan of, I mean, I think Mapiano, which is like it's a beautiful wave, a very spirited like genre. But I also think that the people who are just doing it so seamlessly.
Yeah.
And I'm really a fan of like young standards artistry, guys. So I know it's like way there from where people are expecting me to go. And then it's all the people, like I would love to collaborate with a Janelle Monáe. I would love to collaborate with a FKA Twigs, an Erykah Badu, so many people.
No, that may they all happen.
I receive.
All right, so in closing, what do you think is the role of artists in our time?
You know, everyone knows, at this point, everyone knows the famous Nina Simone quote that like an artist's job is to reflect the times. And I definitely think that's one really important aspect of being an artist, right? Like you are kind of archiving, I mean, you're impacting in the present, but also kind of archiving something for the future, right? But I also really think that art is really a way for us to connect with our playfulness and our creativity, you know? I think that it's unfortunate that sometimes we live in such heavy times that like it feels like the artistry is meant to constantly be used for protest, and it's a privilege that I don't take lightly. But I also do think it's for us to connect with our creative inclinations. I think it's to create anything is such a spiritual process, and I think it's for us to connect with our creator within.
Thank you so much for sitting down with us.
Thank you for having me.
And I can't wait to hear your new album, and I wish you all the best in all your endeavors. Thank you. And so the last song, what's the name?
I think the last one will be Lerato Le Fedile, just because it's a crowd favorite. It's one that people love and adore. It's my Crazy in Love. You know how Beyonce has to sing Crazy in Love
all the time.
Lerato Le Fedile is that for me. Yeah, it's a heartbreak song, and I think many people have had their hearts broken, and that's why so many people connect with it. I hate that I'm ending on that note, but alas, we are here. It's Lerato Le Fedile.
As we exit Lerato Le Fedile, enjoy.
Tisi nako isikaye mohlankana oraile moritswana meme puo isikaye matsale ulaile modisana bona heke haibula homoditswa hari khutle bona heke haibula homoditswa hari khutle lerato le fedile ke kopari homodi boele sake lerato le fedile ke kopari homodi boele sake homotena hari boele sake.
And we thank you, LEOMILE, for sitting down with us, and we wish you all the best with all your future endeavors.
Thank you so much. It's always a pleasure to get to share about my story and my music. Thank you for having me.
And that's how we wrap today's episode of On Stage. Thank you and good night.
Au ka fumana molaetsa jomewe ikaba ke tla etsa jwang bona heke haibula khomoditswa Hari hutle bona heke haipula homoditswa hari hutle lerato le fedile ke kopadi homodi buele sake lerato le fedile ke kopadi homodi buele sake homotena hari buele sake homotena hari buele sake helele ntwaneleng helele tibamo